We reversed type 2 diabetes physiology in a client who has been told this was lifelong and was headed for insulin use. Within just 30 days, her fasting glucose fell by 60 points, and she does not need insulin now. So, Terry is 60 years old, and she's lived for a decade with fatigue. Her blood sugar would be constantly increasing each year, and she feared she would need insulin. She was even told by her doctor that insulin is the next option, but she just adamantly refused. Now, she's been on a high dose of metformin, which is 2 grams a day, for years now, and yet her glucose just is not under control at all. So she came to us because she did not want to use insulin. Day to day, she felt stuck in a cycle of post-meal crashes, brain fog, and exhaustion. She had a sense that her health trajectory was set in stone as she tried to do some dietary changes and exercise, but her fasting glucose levels never improved. So Terry's labs and symptoms showed that she had uncontrolled diabetes with fasting and postprandial glucose trending up despite therapy. And we realized this after she got on a CGM, which is a constant glucose monitor. She developed glaucoma a few years ago as a result of the diabetes and has been on some drugs for that to reduce the intraocular pressure because it was damaging her retina. She also has fatigue and brain fog. So, in her words, I thought I was doomed to take insulin, but wanted to fix the problem without having to do lifelong injections. We applied our precision cell methods with the key focuses for Terry being peptides to restore pancreatic beta cell signaling and reverse age-related pancreatic morphological changes, which usually occurs sometime after age 50, and peptides to improve and even out postprandial glucose levels and protect against advanced glycation end products, which is very likely to occur with chronically elevated glucose levels. This can be so damaging. And by the way, another issue with the pancreas is that when you have chronically elevated glucose levels, it can actually burn out the pancreatic beta cells. And once you lose those, it's very hard to regenerate them. Their quantity is usually considered finite, although sometimes it is possible to actually gain some of those pancreatic beta cells back in addition to just improving their function. And I've seen evidence of this in the literature, although some people will say it's technically impossible, but that's just according to some old medical standards. And peptides and cofactors to improve mitochondrial function and enhance insulin sensitivity. So these are very important. Some were subcutaneous injection, some were oral. And supplements. Certain micronutrients that are needed to improve diabetic neuropathy. She did have minor issues with her hands sometimes going numb. It wasn't very severe yet, which I'm actually very impressed and surprised by considering how high her glucose was. But micronutrients that were also decreased as a result of long-term metformin use. Metformin creates this paradoxical problem in that it can potentially worsen diabetes over time, especially if you're on it for years or you're taking the max dose, because it decreases the absorption of a vital micronutrient, which your body can actually store for a period of time. But once your stores get depleted and you're not getting enough of this vitamin absorbed, it can cause a worsening of insulin sensitivity and just drive diabetes even worse. So very important to supplement that, which nobody even talks about it, which is so shocking to me. But yep. This program was built without any medication changes. So although I'm not a huge fan of metformin, it does inhibit the mitochondrial complex 1 of the electron transport chain. And this is the area in the mitochondria inside the inner mitochondrial membrane, which produces ATP. Metformin inhibits this, but it's not a terrible drug in general for diabetics. It's certainly better than nothing. However, it's not the greatest medication for somebody who wants to prioritize getting the maximum amount of gains from exercise. I made the client aware of this. I did want to change their medication to something else, but it was quite an expensive medication, and they just did not want to pay for it on an ongoing basis. They wanted it kept just the way it was. So we kept the meds as they were. Metformin it is. We gave a nutritional menu, including a few recipes to help replace sweet options with healthy options, which also taste good. One good example of this is ice cream. A lot of people love ice cream, but you can actually make it homemade at home in a much healthier way. So before the program, her HbA1c was 8.2%, which is crazy. I've seen type 1 diabetics with better HbA1c than this. Her fasting glucose was 177, fasting insulin 22, CGM time in range 31%. Afterwards, glucose went down to 108. That's a 60-point drop in just 1 month, so incredible. And this is typical, by the way. I've seen approximately this amount of a drop in a month with most of my clients who have diabetes, even if it's type 1 diabetes. And sometimes it's also with even decreasing their insulin use. So CGM time in range, 78%, so much more stable. What Terry said, I would have been happy just lowering my sugars a bit. Instead, within a month, my fasting dropped 60 points, and I have much more energy and feel great. So this matters because type 2 diabetes is not a life sentence. It's reversible even without changing the medications that you're on. This program was just with peptides and basic supplements, and a nutrition plan, of course. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can be accomplished in just a month. So if you have diabetes, you don't necessarily need a 3-month program, and you can begin your transformation at peptides.link/transformation. Thank you for watching. This has been Brenden Henry, and I hope you have a great day.